on the CC button on the bottom and hit show subtitles, and the captions should come up.
Yep.
I do ask that we all stay muted unless you're speaking. Wait for it to be called on. If you need, trying to get our attention, wave your hand and we'll do our best. It is a busy agenda. We want to, meet everybody, and so we'll do our best, okay? So let's get started. This meeting will be recorded, so if you missed it or if you want to watch it again, once it's ready, it will be posted on our website, and it will be captioned there as well, okay? So basically, it will be on YouTube. All right, so I welcome you all. I can't thank you enough for coming. Right now, we have like 30 people that signed up, and it looks like we got, I've been checking people that are signed in. There's still a few more people expected, but things do change. So once again, I welcome you all. I just want to find my notes. I got too many sheets of paper here. So I'm Dan Brooks. I'm the current president of the New York State Association. We kind of started it at the last convention at the Rochester chapter. I say chapter, but the convention in Rochester, where we had our first meeting, and then our first true meeting was a year ago in New York, in Albany at a hotel, and we've been meeting, via Zoom. And as much as COVID is, a problem for a lot of us, it's been a blessing too. So I mean, here we are at an annual meeting. Normally, it would be, at the convention or something like that, where we're all together, and wouldn't have this many people probably. So how lucky are we, And I'm hoping to utilize this going forward. So this is great. So I welcome y'all. I want to introduce the current officers. I've introduced myself. Cassie Granger, are you here? Yep. Could you say hello?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Cassie Granger. I'm the vice president.
And you're in the Glen Falls area, right?
Yeah, actually, we don't have a chapter yet, but I'm in the Glens Falls area.
Yes.
An hour from Albany.
Okay. So we're going to basically get everybody to introduce themselves. If you're from a chapter, state the chapter you're from. If you're not, state the area you're from. There might be a chapter coming near you, hopefully. So the next person will be Mary Kate Owen. She's our secretary. Can you say hi? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted, Mary.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm from the Albany, New York chapter. I'm the newsletter editor and most recently was appointed president of the chapter, and I've had single-sided deafness for 17 years. I wear a bone-anchored hearing aid.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you, Mary. I actually wear a behind the ear hearing aid. I've had hearing loss since I was born. I have severe, profound hearing loss. Cassie, what kind of hearing loss do you have?
So I started losing my hearing in first grade, and I am completely deaf. I have bilateral cochlear implants.
Okay. All right. If you're willing to share, the hearing loss you have, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's fine too, just so you know. Tom Cordoville, can you?
Hi, my name's Tom Cordoville. I'm the treasurer of the New York State Association. I live with my family in the Rochester area. I am also the treasurer of HLAA Rochester chapter, and I'd like to welcome everybody today to the meeting today.
Thank you, Tom. Next up is Jerry Bergman. Can you say hello, Jerry?
Hi, everybody. You want me to say a little bit?
Yeah, you're the.
I'm in my 70s, and it was maybe 15 years ago that I started losing my hearing loss, and it was gradual, but I now have almost no hearing and wear a cochlear implant as well as a hearing aid. For a little over 10 years, I've been an active advocate as a member of HLAA on a national as well as a local basis, and I'm happy to serve Advocacy and Legislative Chair for the State Association from New York City.
Thank you, Jerry. Jerry, I'm going to turn this over. You want to introduce the rest of the board members, please?
Okay, do we have time for everyone to say anything about themselves, or should I just give a little bit of background on each of them?
We're at 10:07 and I think we're okay. Go ahead. They can all say hello and just, mute yourself when you're done. Go ahead.
Okay. Peggy Bell. Peggy is a very active member and did yeoman's work on our state website. Peggy represents both Long Island and Florida. She spends her time in both places. Fluffy Butler is an old friend. Hi, Fluffy. Fluffy is from the Mid-Hudson region and has been our longest serving member on the New York State Hearing Dispensing Advisory Board that I am now also a member of, but Fluffy was the pioneer, really the lone voice for consumers on that state advisory panel. Mary Chiswick is an active member of the Rochester chapter. Mary, would you like to say anything?
Mary is not here. I'm not sure why, but she's
Okay.
not here.
Pete Fackler, we're honored to have Pete. Pete is both a member of the Rochester, officer of Rochester, as well as a former very active leader in the national organization on the national board, and is a co-founder with Ann Pope of HLA's Walk for Hearing. Dan Farfaglia. Dan, would you like to say a word or two?
Sure. It's great to be here. I was a previous state board member from about 2006 to 2010. I used to work for the state assembly and the state senate, and prior to this year, I was a county legislator for the past 8 years. So I hope I can help out with the legislative committee in some way. So was previously somewhat involved in the Albany area HLAA when I was living there, but now I'm in Oswego County, north of Syracuse. So it's good to be back.
Thank you, Dan. Eric Mattson, very active member. Hi, Eric, Rochester chapter. And Eric is especially active in Rochester in the area of education and technology, and has been helping us with the New York State Hearing Aid Dispensing Advisory Board as well on the issue of the forthcoming over-the-counter hearing aids. So welcome, Eric. Sue Miller is one of the real pioneers of HLAA, a member of the Rochester chapter, a founding member, I guess, for over 20 years. And Sue, we've enjoyed some good times together at HLA conferences. Ann Pope, I think, is Ann back with us? No, Ann had to leave, but we're thrilled to have Ann Pope on our board. She is also a founder, a lead founder of the Walk for Hearing, and one of the pioneers and most active members of the New York chapter for many years. John Taylor is our New York City chapter's current president, as well as a former classical musician. And John represents New York City very well. Debbie Wolf is another veteran HLA member from Westchester, Rockland. And the last person alphabetically is Steve Wolford, also from the Westchester chapter, who's chaired many Walk for Hearings for Westchester. If anybody wants to say anything about themselves, feel free.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. Great job. Cassie, would you like to introduce the members that signed on?
Okay, so I am not good at pronouncing names. I really bash them up really bad. So when I call your name, if I mispronounce it, please forgive me. Alexa, I ask her all the time to pronounce something, so I use her a lot. So I'm going to call your name, and basically, if I mess it up, you can say your name again, what chapter you're from, and if you aren't in a chapter, where you live, and if you hold a position. Okay? So here we go. I marked the people I saw in. So if you don't hear your name called at the end, just let me know. Okay, so I saw Mary Fredericks.
Hi, I belong to the New York City chapter. I have been with it since about 1987. I was one of the early members of the New York State Association with Susan Miller, and I am in a sort of semi-retired position with the chapter now. I'm 85 years old, or will be this week, and I'm just happy to see some of my old friends here.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, the next person I saw, we're going alphabetical, and I saw here Lauren Gostel.
Yeah, my name is Lauren Gallistel. I'm with the Rochester chapter, and I've been with the chapter for about 3 years, so I'm sort of a newbie in a way. And I guess that's all I have to say. Oh, by the way, I am a hearing aid user. I've been for 5 years. We're a Phonax, and it's
Great.
moderate to severe hearing loss.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next person, Joe, I guess, Kalowski. He's over there, I see him.
Well, that was a good stab at it. So the name is Kozelski, and I've been with the Rochester chapter for probably as long as it's been around, almost, thanks to Sue and some of the other early members. I'm a past president of the chapter. I'm a retired audiologist, and I have a moderate to severe high frequency hearing loss as well. I've worn hearing aids for about 20 years because being in practice by myself, they came along pretty easily for me. So I'm here as a visitor, and I do see somebody I met years ago, and that's Donna Wayner. I don't know if you recall Donna.
I remember your name, Joe.
We met at a convention somewhere.
Yes, there were many good conventions.
That's right. Oh, you were at the time a specialist in assistive devices.
Yes.
And I assume you probably still are. So.
No. I am long retired and enjoying it very much.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm retired too, but I'm still doing this stuff. So, okay, that's
Joe, you're
Thank
being
you.
a little modest for everybody's benefit. Joe moderates and leads all of our hope sessions, and we highly value his participation.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, next up is Paul Leonard.
Hi. I am a relatively new member. I joined the New York City chapter about a year ago. And boy, I missed those meetings. Zoom is better than nothing, but I can't wait for us to be meeting in person in the near future. I live in the Roosevelt Island area of New York City. And it's a quick trip to the New York City chapter meeting. So I look forward to seeing the good people that I met at that meeting.
Okay, Carol and Jerry Loftus. I thought I saw him on there.
Okay, now go ahead. Good morning, this is Carol. I'm a member of the Rochester chapter and have been for a number of years. I'm corresponding secretary, member of the board for several years, and have just taken on chairing something new that we're doing. We have a veterans group, and we are bringing on veterans with hearing loss. And due to a grant that has been given to the Rochester chapter, we're reaching out and focusing on veterans, and have reached out with a free lifetime membership for our veterans. So I'm knee deep in reaching out not only to our members, but trying to get veterans in our area very involved. And this, of course, is Veterans with Hearing Loss. Thank you.
Hi, Jerry Loftus, moderate hearing loss. I'm from the Rochester chapter. I was a past treasurer. Carol forgot to mention that she's also the liaison for the Buffalo Walk for Hearing for the last couple of years.
Thank you.
And I'm also involved in the Veterans Committee, and we hope to have a lot more veterans joining our chapter, or if nothing else, at least getting to know that HLAA exists and can help them. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Next is Art Moore. Art.
Yeah, hi, I'm Art Mauer. I'm the president of the Rochester chapter. I've been a member for several years, and I'm really glad to see so many from Rochester here. We're starting to do a lot of contemplation of how to better leverage this technology we're talking on to reach out further, to get people that haven't heard of us to hear of us and join in some of our presentations and hope sessions and demo center sessions. And so we're kind of taking a hard look at the future. And this state association is great because I think over time we'll be networking more and more inter-chapter to take advantage of what each of us has developed. So.
Okay. Next, let's see. Is Mary Beth Mothersell on? I saw her earlier. Oh, there she is. Got to get off of mute, Mary. So.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I'm the New York Relay Customer Relations Manager, and I've seen many of you through the years. I want to thank Dan for being a part of our advisory board. Thank you, Dan. And I'm happy to be here, and I hope everybody stays healthy.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Okay, next up is Bruce Nelson. Bruce, I see a photo of him, but I don't think he's there.
He might be away there.
Okay.
Bruce Nelson is from the Rochester. Just so you know, Bruce Nelson is from the Rochester chapter. He recently took over the newsletter for the Rochester chapter. Unfortunately, we lost our longtime newsletter editor, Ginger Graham. She passed away a couple months ago. We're very, very saddened, but she really left us a wonderful legacy, and Bruce had graciously took over and doing a quite an amazing job. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware about Bruce Nelson. Thank you.
Next, I have Don Porter.
Hi, I'm from the Albany chapter. I've been a part of the chapter for 4 or 5 years now. I have had hearing aids for 12 or 15 years. And most recently this past summer, I have my brand new cochlear implant, which is a huge improvement. So I'm struggling along, but making progress.
Thank you. The next person I have is Maura Olson. I thought. Maura. Are they on?
We'll have to move on.
Okay.
We're getting short on time.
Norbert. Is Norbert here?
Yes.
Yeah, Norbert Rappel. He is here. The screen isn't showing right now.
Okay,
There you
okay,
are.
I just unmuted myself.
There you go.
Norbert Rappel, I've been a member of the Rochester chapter for about 10 years or so. I had my first hearing aids about 15 years ago. I'm now on my fourth set, thanks to the VA. VA's help has been fantastic. And they, one thing they do that I think a lot of audiologists don't do, they explain how expensive these are. And the reason they're so expensive,
Okay.
the reason they're so expensive is because it's a lot of aftercare.
The one thing that Norbert Rappel is not commenting on is that he is, in addition to being a member of the Rochester chapter, he's also a general. He was a general in the Army. So we are very honored to have General Norbert Rappel as one of our chapter members.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sue. Okay, and next is Gary Schwartz.
Hi, I'm Gary Schwartz. I do not yet have actionable hearing loss, but many of my friends do, which is how I got involved with the Albany chapter, and I serve on the planning committee.
Okay, Diane Sussman. Diane. I see Diane. Gotta get yourself off and mute, Diane. You're still on mute.
Hello, everybody. Glad to meet you all. And I'm glad to be part of the State Association of HLAA and of New York State. And I'm formerly a board member of the New York chapter. And I've been doing volunteer work since 1989. I met my boyfriend there. Unfortunately, passed on. But I am passionate about HLAA, and I'm here today. And thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next is Carolyn Tannen.
Okay,
Carolyn?
let me get, okay, yeah, I'm here. Okay. From the Westchester chapter for the past 10 years, I was formerly on the board with them as well. But the funny thing is, we started out in New York City, and I helped them out with their first walk back in 2009, I believe, 2009, 10. So I know some of you. I tried to be on the New York State Association many years ago, but things were like in transition, and I have one cochlear implant, and I just got my new Canto too. Wonderful. I'm a law librarian. I work in the Federal Court of Appeals in Lower Manhattan, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Next is Donna Wayner.
I'm very happy to be here just to see so many of you keeping the spirit alive. I started a chapter of what was then Self-Help for Hard of Hearing People, or SHHH, back in 1983 when I was at Albany Medical Center as the audiologist and director of the facility. Our chapter continues on. I'm thrilled that Mary Kate Owens has taken on the presidency because she does it with zeal and zesto. And I'm happy to see all of you continuing the work. It's very important work.
Thank you, Donna. Next up is Tim Witcher.
Well, my name's Tim. I'm with the Rochester chapter. Oh, I think I've been a member of Rochester chapter since around 2015. I think I actually joined. I've been a past chairman of the Technical Advisory Committee, past chairman of our PAC committee, former board member. Now I guess I'm just what you call a regular member and an individual contributor. I've been wearing hearing aids since 1958, and basically seen how they've evolved over the years. And so now I'm just kind of a passive member tuning in and watching what the rest of you contribute to our great causes.
I just want to chime in and say, Tim keeps our Google group and our mailing lists going all the time. I don't think we could function without the group listings that Tim keeps up to date. So he's not a member.
Thank you. Okay, there are two more people. Fred Eldred. Fred.
I'm here. I've been a member of the Rochester chapter for a number of years and served on various committees, the hospital committee, the health fairs. I've worked for a number of years and always enjoyed it, and also helped set up the technical committee that we had for a number of years prior to the situation we have now, where we have a room with all these assistive devices held by a good bunch of people. I've enjoyed working. I have a cochlear implant. I started off with regular hearing aids, and as things progressed, I had to go to the cochlear implant, and it's been wonderful. So I enjoy fishing and hunting, unfortunately for Sue, but I still enjoy fishing. I now have a Chihuahua dog, which I just got this past couple of weeks, and it's helps keep me company. I'm used to having Basset Hounds, which are a little bit bigger, but we're getting along pretty good so far. But it's always been a pleasure. I worked with Sue for a few years to help her with the daytime meetings, and we would meet prior to the meetings and get things set up, and I really enjoyed that time spent with her. I'm 92 now, but we're just keep plowing along. If they just get rid of this virus. I'll talk to you all later. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Okay, then last person
Just
is
for the
Myra.
record, Fred is not 92 old, he's 92 vintage.
Myra. You're on mute. You got to take yourself off mute.
Hi, I'm from the New York City chapter. I'm the treasurer for the chapter. I'm involved with HLAA for maybe about 20 years. I was one of the original people who worked with Dan Pope on the Walk for Healing. I was one of the first people involved with it. And I've been wearing hearing aids since I'm 5 years old.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I got everybody. I was marking everybody down on my sheet, so I think I got everybody. Dan, did I miss somebody? Anybody?
No, it looks like you got everybody covered. Great job. Thank you. And it was great to hear from all of you and see where you're from. Hopefully each of the years that go on from this point forward, it will keep growing. Okay. And I can't thank you enough for joining us. So let's move on. We're a little behind, but we're okay. So let's move on and let's start some, reports of the state association and some of the things that we've been working on and doing. If you do have any questions, you can raise your hand. We will try to get to you. You can use the chat feature to type questions. If somebody knows the answer, feel free to answer it. But we will have some time at the end to ask questions. So just, jot down your questions so you don't forget what they are, and we'll do our best to get to everybody. Okay. All right, so let's start off with the standing committee reports and updates, okay? The first report will be the chapter development, and that would be Sue Miller.
Well, I am the upstate chapter coordinator, and I have been working for years, literally years, with talking with various people from all over upstate New York, trying to get something going again in Utica, in Syracuse, in Buffalo, in Skinny Atlas. I have umpteen emails that I've sent, and I've met with people, and I'm just not having a lot of success. But if any of you, I've met with so many people from Buffalo, and I've talked with people from Buffalo. I went to the Buffalo Walk hoping to meet somebody who maybe would have an interest. But anyway, if any of you have any suggestions or know of anybody at all in any of the upstate areas, the Southern Tier, please get in touch with me, and I will be happy to work with anybody to reestablish chapters. At one time, we did have chapters in all over upstate New York. So we hope to have that again. So thank you. That's all, Dan.
Sorry, I made you, I spotlighted or remove. Here we go.
There we go.
Yes, sorry. Now I'm going to bring the gallery view for myself. All right. Just trying to make it easier for people so they can lip read and stuff too. Thank you, Sue. Next up is Jerry Bergman reporting on the Advocacy and Legislative Committee. Jerry, I believe you might be muted.
There we go. Thank you, Dan.
You're muted again, Jerry.
What I did, now I've got it. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yep.
I have to say that from my perspective, at least, the pandemic has slowed down the committee's work considerably because much of what we would like to accomplish depends on our outreach to our state legislators, and it's a matter of broadly educating our respective representatives in Albany about hearing loss and the issues we face, and maintaining those relationships and encouraging them to introduce legislation to achieve what we think are important priorities. But let me run down a few of those right now that I think we have a consensus on. The first is that regrettably, New York is one of only 12 states that does not have an agency statewide and state government to represent the deaf and the hearing loss community. Neither of us. And just one example of how that can be so very important is that that we now know how valuable masks that have see-through so we can speech read would be. And I think most people in state government have no idea how important that is for us. But if we had an agency that spoke for people with deafness and hearing loss, they could certainly help spread that word throughout the state health care system, et cetera, et cetera. That's just one simple example. There's a lot that those agencies do in the 38 states that currently have them, and that's one that's at the top of my agenda and our committee's agenda. Another one that's been of concern for a number of years is the need to tighten the requirements on audiologists to tell their customers about telecoil technology and to give them the option of purchasing hearing aids with telecoils before they sell a particular hearing aid product. New York was, many of you know, New York was one of the first states before I ever got involved to adopt a telecoil requirement in the regulations governing hearing aid dispensing. But unfortunately, there was no enforcement. And so what happens is that too many people only hear about telecoil technology after the fact. I'm sure your experience is similar to mine, that when people first encounter us at meetings and we talk about hearing loops and telecoils, their eyebrows are raised and they say, "What's that?" And that was my experience 10 or 12 years ago. And it was that around that time that I had an audiologist tell me that telecoils were old technology and useless, and Bluetooth was the wave of the future. And unfortunately, a lot of audiologists continue to speak that talk. Bluetooth has a very valuable place in our ability to hear and assistive technology, but hearing loops are still the preferred large area assistive listening system among all of us. So that's another goal of mine, and that will require legislation in Albany to ensure that, or encourage audiologists, require audiologists to tell people about telecoils and give them the option before they sell them the hearing aids. And that would be documented on the bill of sale that they have done that, so that if there is a dispute, we have the evidence, the consumer has the evidence that they were not told. That's another one. A third one, pre-pandemic, was to try to get cinemas statewide to show movies with open captions on the screen. Debbie's nodding. Debbie's been active in a group called DEAF, and I'm working with Fred Corman, the head of that group, representing the deaf community in the New York City area. We're initially trying to get a bill passed in the city council that would require that movie theaters on a regular basis show movies with open captions. We are about to have a letter that's approved by both our groups that we can send to our respective legislators, so that if any members of HLA statewide want to pick up the cause in their area, they can demonstrate, that there's widespread support for that initiative. But obviously, that's been slowed considerably by the pandemic and the terrible problems that motion picture exhibitors have faced. New York City, I mentioned, has a bill in the city council that our New York City chapter encouraged, that will, or if passed, which we believe it will at some point, will require open captioning on a scheduled basis every week. Weekdays, evenings, weekends, prime time. So that's one. We have a second bill in the New York City Council that would tighten a bill, the requirement that was passed last year in Albany to have captions visible on TV monitors in places of public accommodation. That one snuck by us a year ago, and it's a shame because it's a very lame bill. The bill that was adopted only says that if somebody requests captioning in a restaurant, a sports bar, a dental office, a doctor's clinic, that they are required to do so. But you can imagine somebody in a bar who asks a bartender or a waitress to turn on the captions. It's the law, and they look at you cross-eyed and say, "What are you talking about?" So that's the problem. And for that reason, New York City has a bill in the city council that would make it mandatory that at least one screen in every facility have open captions visible. It really is a inexpensive, no-cost thing that would both promote captions and promote accessibility. So that's pretty much my report. If there are any issues that we should be taking up as a advocacy committee, I would love to know more. Would you like me, Dan, to speak about the seminar that we're working on?
Yeah, hold on a second. We seem to have lost captions for some reason. Live rep had disappeared, and I'm trying to see if we can figure out how to fix that. I apologize. When this meeting goes to YouTube, where you view it later, the captions will be available. So we're going to have to be mindful. Hopefully the captions will come back. I'm going to work on that in the background. Dan Farfaglia had something to mention on what you said. Dan, are you?
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
When I was an assembly employee in 2006 and 2007, I was the lead staffer on a bill that would create a statewide organization for people who are deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind. And it became law in 2007. And it was supposed to be under the agency Commission on Quality of Care and Advocacy for People with Disabilities. And the members of the Assembly, the Senate, and the Governor's Office all got to pick the members of the advisory board. And every year they were supposed to look at all of the issues affecting these population and then send a report to the governor and legislature. But then a few years later, this agency was then put under the auspices of the Justice Center, which oversees all the homes of people with developmental disabilities. And I spoke with a guy from Rochester. Some of you might be aware of who he is. His name is Dean DeRusso, and he served on this committee. He was appointed a number of years ago. And I asked him not long ago, what's going on with it? And apparently they haven't met in quite some time and it's become defunct. And the agency where it is now doesn't want it. So apparently now, unless it's been eliminated in some previous budgets that I'm not aware of, it's still in effect, but it had not been operating. So this was supposed to be the state government auspices that would oversee all issues regarding deaf and hard of hearing and deafblind. So it was called the Interagency Coordinating Council for Services to People who are deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing. So that's what it was called. And I do have a friend who still works at the Assembly who does oversee some disability issues. I'm going to ask her about this next week to see what's been going on with it, if there's any funding for it, if it's still there, and why haven't they been meeting? Does another state agency want to take it over? What? So, but it is there, but it has not been functioning in the last few years.
Thank you, Dan. That background is appreciated, and from my research, I know some of those details. My sense is that what happened was around 10 years ago, as you say, when the Justice Center was created, that the focus was on it political. They wanted to reduce or eliminate the liability New York State faced from lawsuits from children who were placed in care facilities.
Right.
And I think that the need for services to the deaf and hard of hearing was totally pushed aside for that. And I think the fact that 38 states have the kind of agency and services that we're talking about would encourage the legislature now, if we take up the cause, to move in that direction. And I'm so glad to have you in the association, and I'd like you to be with us on this issue as we go forward.
Yeah, I would glad to. And before this interagency council was created, there was a bill that languished in both houses of the legislature for years and years. It would create a state commission for the deaf, similar to what 38 other states have, but the state never wanted to fund it. About 15 years ago, I looked up the amount of money that the Commission for the Blind was operating under, and it was like $40 million. And I just thought that that was absurd that they can give them that much money for services for people with visual impairment throughout the state, but they couldn't do something similar for people that can't hear. But so this interagency council was supposed to have been a compromise, you know, that could perform some similar advocacy functions and not cost as much.
Well, let's continue this offline.
Yes.
By email.
Okay. Yeah, Jerry, we are running time, but can you just briefly announce what's going on in February?
Yeah. We are starting to organize an effort to mount a seminar, a webinar, if you will, in February, mid to late February, to help all of our members and friends statewide to understand their rights under law and to encourage them to be more active advocating on behalf of all of us. I dare say hardly a week goes by that I don't come across some lack of accessibility somewhere. Just last week, I filed a federal complaint for lack of captioning on a TV program, and that's being investigated at the moment. But I think that there's lots and lots of things that our members individually can do that really don't require a great deal of effort, don't require them to be attorneys, don't require them to risk embarrassment or becoming too focused as an individual. And I've taken the first steps with the state association's help by putting together a team of people to work on this seminar. It would be a weekday evening from 7 to 9. And I've already recruited a panel consisting of longtime hearing loss advocate, attorney John Waldo, and two of the state officials involved in enforcement. One from John Herrian from the New York State Commission on Human Rights, and the other, Mark Fliedner, who is the attorney who handles such matters for the quasi-government agency called Disability Rights New York, which is federally funded, but funded to work in every state. And Mark works in the Brooklyn office. There's also an upstate branch. They have two branches. And John Herrian's agency and Mark Fliedner's agency are two resources that all of our members should know about. And John Waldo knows everything there is to know about the laws governing accessibility, how to stick up for your rights, and as in the case of the two bills I mentioned in the New York City Council, John has been very helpful with those, getting the legislation drafted so that there are ordinances that work for us. So that's where we're headed, and we'll be making slow but hopefully steady progress in the weeks ahead.
Thank you, Jerry. We will be announcing that information on our website. So, please stay tuned, and we will, let the board members know, and they'll filter it down to the chapters as well. Okay.
Our committee planning that is meeting in a week or 10 days to continue moving forward on them.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to event and fundraising. Cassie, can you report?
Yeah, so we were going to do a fall conference in 2021 of October, but we have now decided, our board had met and we have decided we are moving the fall conference to October 2022. It will probably be the second weekend in October, which is October 14th and 15th. It will be in Lake George, so about an hour and 20 minutes from Albany. So, and we're very excited about it. We will be having vendors and hopefully sponsors and speakers. So it will be our first fall conference in a long time, I guess. We haven't had one for a while. So I'm looking forward to preparing that and getting that going.
If there's anybody that wants to get involved with that or live in the area and have a lot of information, and, by all means, reach out to us. We can certainly use the extra help. Okay. Thank you, Cassie. All right. Publicity and website. Peggy Bell, would you like to talk about the committee?
Sure. Thank you. Yes, I'm Peggy Bell, and the website we have up and running is a WordPress site. And right now I'm the only one who's accessing it to edit it. If there's anyone who's interested in getting involved in that, either just as simply contributing news and events, reminders, or actually wants to jump in and make edits, just let me know. In the chat, I put the 2 email addresses. One is mine personally, and the other one is the email that you can use to send information regarding events that should be publicized. Any questions about the website? Publicity, we don't right now, let me say this, we don't have any social media accounts for the state. And in terms of really anything, we don't have a Facebook page or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or a YouTube channel. We're not doing anything in that regard. And I don't think we would move ahead with that unless we had, we have a little committee and we really haven't met to discuss that further. We should, if that's, a priority. Any questions?
If anybody wants to help with the Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, raise your hand or get with one of us. We can certainly use the extra help. I see Fluffy has her hand up. Fluffy, you can unmute yourself. You're muted, Fluffy. And Eric, can you make me co-host, please?
Yeah, most of the things, just so you know, anything that you see on our website is typically has an icon on it where you can share the content with your own personal, on your own personal pages. Or if you're managing a Facebook page for your chapter, you can share and post. Fluffy has a question. I don't.
Got to unmute yourself, Fluffy.
There, I got it. I just wanted to know the website address.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat, but it's nyhearingloss.org. And I will put that in the chat right now.
If you printed off the agenda, I have it written up in there too. Okay, I believe. Let me just double check real quick.
Should have added the www.
I don't know if I did it. It might not be, Ashley. No,
it's...
send it in the chat.
Okay. No, it's on.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it's
yes.
there. Page
yep.
1, halfway down.
Yep. under FYI key alerts from the president. So, all right. All right. Any questions real quick before moving on? We're at 10:57. We're doing pretty good now. I don't see anybody waving their hands. Just checking. All right. All right. Moving on to chapter reports and updates. We'll start with Albany, and we'll have Mary Kate speak on behalf of the chapter.
Well, we've been on lockdown, as has everyone else, since March. We had to cancel our in-person schedule, and we've now returned to it. We've become Zoomers, of course, using Otter for closed captioning. We're planning on a Zoom in December addressing holiday stress and hearing loss, followed by a little holiday cheer. And also in December, we're having a holiday party. We usually traditionally have a holiday party with a signing Santa that we do with another group that's a parent and child hearing association. We can't do the traditional party this year, but we're going to have, this is really cool. We're going to have a drive-by in the parking lot with a signing Santa and have the kids pick up gifts. So I'm excited about that. And then in January, we're going to have a webinar, an audiologist-led Zoom webinar on new hearing technologies with a Q&A, which should be good. We've had a good attendance at our Zooms. In fact, you know, in some ways it's easier to show up on Zoom than it is to show up in person. We're trying to get our newsletter out. I'm afraid I haven't been as diligent as I should be, and we're investing in a more broad-based email system to reach our members. We're looking at MailChimp or Constant Contact. We're a small group and we've gotten smaller in the past few years, but hopefully we'll build up some new members. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Mary Kate. Anybody have any questions about the Albany chapter? I don't see. If we got so many people, I got to go between two pages. Kind of cool. All right, cool. Thank you, Mary. Cassie, you want to report on Glen Falls?
Yeah, so before the pandemic, I was trying to start a chapter in Glens Falls, working with our public library to get in the door there. I had talked to a few people to get a room signed and stuff, and then the pandemic happened. So it's on the back burner right now. The library is still closed. And then I tried another building, Association for the Blind. They are not allowing people to use their back room. So I guess we're on hold because it's kind of hard to try to get people together that you haven't seen on Zoom. A lot of people want to meet in person, but I might try that, getting some audiologists on board to see if anybody from their patients would like to be a part of our new chapter. So thanks.
Great, thank you. Dan, do you have your hand up? Yep, you're muted.
Kathy, didn't there used to be an association for the hearing impaired in Glens Falls?
Yes, actually my mom's the one who started that organization. She had retired and other people took over as directors. It actually went under because it's a nonprofit, due to funding and people not admitting that they have a hearing loss. So it kind of fell through the cracks. So, but there is where we had the association, because I actually worked there for a year before it. I was not the director. I was just a receptionist there and mentor and taught sign language there. And so basically the building is still there. It's Southern Adirondack Independent Living Center. They also had agreed that I could use their room as well because it is a nonprofit. So anybody who is nonprofit can use their room. But because no one's going into the building and allowing people because of the pandemic. But yeah, so I have 3 choices of where we could meet when, you know, the pandemic is, we can go back and meet face to face.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mid-Hudson. Fluffy, would you like to
I
report?
I would. Am I muted or
Nope,
unmuted?
I hear you. You're good.
Oh, good. We're kind of like Casey's group. Since the pandemic started, we have not had meetings. Our library is closed. We have a loop in the library and it's a beautiful place, but we were just sort of waiting. I'm inspired to hear about the Zoom meetings that are taking place. So thank you. I'm glad to hear what everybody's talking about.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, if you have any questions about how to set up Zoom and whatnot, feel free to consult with me and others that are in this group. All right, New York City, John Taylor.
Hi. So we had a chapter meeting, a board meeting the other night. I'd like to report on 3 things that we're kind of working on. One, a member of the chapter, Edrica Anthony, came to us with a proposal to start a mentoring program where members of the chapter would mentor new members and answer questions and help them with any hearing issues they have or questions about the chapter. And we're pretty excited about that as a way to both increase our membership and increase diversity both by age and by ethnicity. A second thing that we're working on in conjunction with professional advisors, and this is led by another member of the chapter, a member of the board, Tony Iacolucci, who some of you may know, it has to do with hospital accessibility and working on increasing accessibility in hospitals and finding people that we can connect with if we have issues about accessibility, and also in getting hospitals to educate their staffs better about accessibility questions. And one of our specific goals is to be able to post information on our website, both about what services are available at hospitals and who the contact people are if you want to get services. And then another issue that we've had, we're really trying to increase the profile of the chapter. We've had, our meetings have been Zoom meetings this fall, and they will continue to be for the foreseeable future with live captioner. We have a wonderful captioner, Lauren Schechter, and we've had some terrific meetings, but we really would like to see more people attending these meetings. We think they deserve more attention, and we're trying to find better ways of increasing our profile by using social media such as Facebook, possibly advertising. We will, I think, in the future be doing some advertising in something called the West Side Rag, which is a neighborhood newspaper that's online. And lastly, I would like to plug our next 2 meetings. We have a meeting this Tuesday night, that's the 17th at 6 o'clock to 7:30. The speaker will be Sharon Kujawa, who is Director of Audiology Research at Mass Eye and Ear. And she's an auditory neuroscientist and clinician, and her research focuses on primary causes of hearing loss like noise exposure and aging, aiming to reveal the types of cellular damage that result. And in recent years, this has led to the concept of hidden hearing loss. That is declines in hearing function that don't show up on your audiogram, but that many of us know that our audiograms may show that with hearing aids that we're getting enough volume, but we really are not able to understand speech. So I think this will be an important talk. And there is a Zoom link posted on our chapter website, which is hearinglossnyc.org. And then in December, on December 1st, 6 o'clock to 7:30, December is the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birthday. And we're really delighted to have a speaker on that occasion, Betty Houck. Some of you may have heard her speak at one of our conventions. She's a former musician who will talk about her career that started with playing in the White House for the Kennedys and a string quartet with Yo-Yo Ma and various other things, and how over the course of her career she lost her hearing and lost that career, and how she's managed the adjustment to that. So that will be December 1st at 6 to 7:30. We don't yet have a Zoom link, but if you look at our website, it will appear at some point. So thanks.
Thank you, John. Is that, Peggy, I don't know if you're here, is that on our New York State website as well, the information? You're muted, Peggy.
There's information on Peggy, I know that has posted information about the meetings. I don't know if she has Zoom links yet.
Yes, anytime I get an email that's a general, statewide announcement about meetings, I try to copy and paste and create a calendar event as well as a news item. The news items show up, the three most recent news stories always appear on our homepage. So I don't have December 1st up there yet. So I'll have to, I could either grab that from your website or you shoot me an email. But as soon as anyone knows about anything, yeah, send me whatever you want to have up there.
December 1st, we don't have a Zoom yet, but.
Okay. Yeah, but we can, the sooner we put it on the general calendar, probably better. If we just have the day, the time, the title, some basic information, as soon as you have that, that would be great. And then you may not want to always publicize your Zoom link to the whole world. You may want to ask people to email you and register. Yeah. I know in Florida, they do both ways. Miami, Sarasota, they do a lot of Zoom meetings, and most often they ask people to inquire, to shoot it, send an email, and then they will send back the Zoom link.
Yeah, well, I think that, for our own Facebook page, that I know that Catherine Boughton has posted this information with a request to email, and then people will be sent Zoom links. In other forums, I'm not really concerned. I mean, we have posted the link on our own website, for example. I'm not worried about posting it on the state website. I don't think it'll lead to a lot of people invading our meetings, so.
That would be a good problem.
Yeah.
Well, the invaders aren't always polite invaders.
Well, that's true. It depends on the topic.
Okay. Anyway, I will send you what we have.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you. All right. North Shore, Peggy.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I typically am on Long Island 4 or 5 months out of the year, and I would be able to go to meetings if there were any, but I haven't been in New York in a year because of coronavirus and because of my family down here and logistics. So, but I know that the last activity on Long Island was the virtual walk, and they raised their group on October 4th, I guess in conjunction with the New York City walk, about $565. The website is not well updated. I have yet to hear from anyone who currently goes to meetings on a regular basis. I know 3 audiologists on Long Island who also do hearing loop installations, and 2 out of the 3 have been too busy with their business and other businesses to get involved. But I should reach out to Dr. McClanahan, Karen. Jerry reminded me that she's on Long Island and maybe she, knows more. The group had been meeting at LIJ in New Hyde Park, and they had a looped space. And then about a year ago, they had to go someplace else to meet, but then everything blew up. Well, it wasn't even a year ago. It was, I guess, in January. Anyway, I'm representing Long Island, but I'm not there, and I have yet to find anyone else who's active. It's so sad. It's such a huge population. So many people. I don't know what more to say or do. I'm looking, any advice from anyone? Anyone know anyone on Long Island? I mean, I have a house there. I would like to be there, but I haven't been there in a long time. That's my update. Not good. Yes.
One thing you might do is ask National for all of the HLAA members who live in the zip codes for that area.
Right. Okay.
John Taylor. John.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something since Peggy brought up about the walk. We did have the New York walk in October. The walk itself, I think, made on the order of $75,000. Our chapter team raised about $23,000. Those are well below, and I should thank Jerry Bergman for having captained that team. although that number is well below what we raised last year, I think in the current, state of the world, that was actually pretty successful. Myra Schreibman, who's here, had her own team that was an ally of our team, and they raised, I think it was $760, if I recall correctly, and we will get a share of that. So I think it was, considering everything, a successful event, and the actual event, the actual morning was, I think, a good event. So hopefully next year we'll be back out in Riverside Park, though.
I'd like to be there too. I will be there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peggy. All right, Rochester chapter, Eric Matson, would you like to give an update for Rochester?
Yeah, I can. And if Art wants to jump in afterwards, that'd be great. Rochester has gone virtual in 4 different directions. We're having virtual meeting presentations, virtual demo center, virtual Hope Center, and virtual committee meetings. And folks who want to get involved just have to register once, and they'll automatically get the invites.
We also have a virtual chapter, one of the cochlear implant group meetings too.
Right, I forgot about that one. The outreach committee has been particularly active in the area of hospital and medical facilities. We've got a team really working on that to get better compliance and to get materials put together for folks that are going into hospital that need some sort of hearing assist. The scholarship program is on track and working, which is very encouraging. And as you can probably tell from the discussions, an awful lot of Rochester members are very active at state level, not only HLAA, but state level in terms of licensing services and the rest. So it's a very vibrant group. I've been very surprised how alive we've remained in spite of the lockdowns. I don't know if Art has anything he wants to add to that.
I'd like to add that we're also taking advantage of the fact that Zoom has no boundaries. And the Rochester May meeting is going to be Elaine McCaffrey from Chicago, who is on the board, and she's the one who oversees the hospital panel for Chicago and the liaison and working with all of the hospitals in Chicago. So she's going to be our chapter May speaker. We are having, and I can't remember, but we're having 2 other chapter meetings with people from outside of New York State. So we're looking forward to that.
I just wanted to add on to what Eric said. What we're doing with the Zoom presentations and demo center sessions and hope sessions, we're trying to get the word out across Western New York. That would be from Buffalo to Utica, down to the Pennsylvania border, to folks that we are presenting these things on Zoom, and they're more than welcome to join us, because it's kind of an area where there's no chapters. So we're just trying to extend our reach since there's no distance limitation, just so you're aware. And if any of you know any local newspapers or ways to get the word out in those areas all across Western New York, we're very open to suggestion. Also, I find it very interesting with some of the stuff that's been shared here that we can begin to hopefully share back and forth with content, because on Zooming, content becomes more and more important. When we have in-person sessions, there's a socialization aspect, and really, I think HLAA over the last 37 years has been built on an awful lot of in-person contact, face-to-face contact. And with Zoom, it's kind of impersonal, until you get used to it. But the content of the sessions is important so that people find value when they come to a Zoom session. So we're doing a lot of work to try to think some of this through, and we're more than willing to share anything we're doing with anybody.
Yeah, just piggybacking on that, all of our sessions, the presentation sessions and the demonstration center sessions are recorded with captions. They're being uploaded to YouTube and can be directly accessed through the Rochester webpage.
Yeah, Eric, you want to type in the Rochester chapter's website?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Fred Aldridge, I saw you put up your hand. I got to unmute first.
Yes, I agree with some of the things that Jerry Bergman has said. One of the greatest problems, as Sue can attest to, I have a war against audiologists. I've always have. I feel that more education to the audiologists on what we do would help by having them tell about these Zoom meetings and pass it on to their members. We always invite them to our meetings. They never invite us to their open houses or whatever. And so there is a bigger need to work with these audiologists. There certainly is the number of them, they can't all be in business and not be making money and not have customers. So there's got to be people that have hearing aids. And this is where we fall apart. And as Jerry said, also, one of the biggest things for me has always been the neck loop and the key switch on your hearing aid. They're so darn important. Years ago, when one of the first meetings I attended, Joan Ewing, who has since passed away, demonstrated and showed us how to make our own neck loops. And that was my introduction to neck loops, which has been a godsend to me. Because I'm a great thing with assistive devices. That's my other argument, not only with the audiologists, but with many of our members, that they don't utilize and participate using assistive devices. Of course, the demo center is a big thing. I don't know if Albany and New York has any type of setup like that, but one of the things, the losses that we have is with Radio Shack. When they went out of business locally here, they did have some of the devices that you could pick up. Now yes, you can see them at our demo center, but you have to order it from someplace and have it shipped in. Of course, you can always return it, but if you could pick it up locally, it makes it a lot easier. But education to the audiologist is a big thing. Believe me, Jerry is on the right track in that field. The same thing as Art has mentioned and just stated. So if we can get these audiologists themselves and also the members or their customers to participate in one of our Zoom meetings, it certainly would be a big help to anyone with hearing loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. You're absolutely right. John, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Members of the board know that a year ago I was starting to talk about wanting to record Zoom meetings and so that we could share our meetings with other chapters. It's tragic indeed that it's taken a pandemic to bring that to fruition. But I do want to mention that our first two meetings from September or October, that if you go to our chapter website, there are links. They've been posted on YouTube and there are links to those meetings. And that will be true for some of our future meetings, but not all. And what Sue said about there being no borders is very important. That this is the Zoom format allows us to invite speakers who otherwise might have enormous fees for the chapter if we were to actually have them come to New York, and it's a way to get them to speak to a wide audience for a relatively low cost or no cost. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And there are talks at the Rochester chapter down the road when things do reopen, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, and we'll meet in person, but we're also broadcast it via Zoom. So Zoom isn't going away, So hopefully we'll keep it going. Thank you. And then just before, yeah, go ahead. Somebody, go, Carolyn.
Yeah. Okay. No. I was just thinking. Lately it seems like we can't get participation on the Zoom meeting. And I agree with trying to do more outreach and try to get not new members, but maybe young adults, because this is right up their alley. The technology, a lot of them may not want to attend in-person meeting, try to bridge that gap a little bit. This is the perfect opportunity to do this. How we do it, I don't know, because we've tried over the years to get younger people to participate, and people that have more technology experience, so that's my thought. It's an opportunity now to do that.
Yes, thank you. Sue, you're muted, Sue.
Carolyn, our chapter has just finally been able to put together a working adults group, and they're basically the young people. We have a young chapter member who's on our board, Jennifer Hurlburt, Hurlburt. She is heading this up, and if you have even one person from your chapter who is working and is interested in communicating with Jennifer, it could be a great beginning for some networking among the state people, the young working adults. So, and Jennifer's been in touch with other people from other states. So anyway, if any of you know of one person who's working and has a hearing loss, please get in touch with Jen Hurlburt.
Thank you, Sue. The problem is we need to find these people, and I think working with the audiologist office is a good place to start. But we need to have that conversation going. We need to get those conversations going. Thank you.
But it's all on Zoom right now. They're meeting. They're beginning to meet, but they're all meeting on Zoom. So.
Yeah. Steve, I saw your hand was up.
Yes. For the first time, Westchester has added a youth coordinator to our board. Her name is Katia Suarez. She's a senior at Rye Country Day School. She's an A+ student. She's hearing impaired, and she's going to add some wonderful ideas and outreach to people. The young professional persons group that Sue refers to is a very good additional way of getting new membership and participating into HLAA.
Thank you. Yeah, and then lastly, Carol mentioned earlier, Carol Loftus and Jerry Loftus, they mentioned earlier that there's a special veterans grant that's going, and where we're, giving free memberships to all the people in the 9 counties, I think it is, around Rochester. So, Carol, you want to mention anything more on that?
Go right now, go.
Sure, just a few words. I have reached out to, I believe we have 4 or 5 members, I'm sorry, Saturday brain, 4 or 5 members that I have reached out to with all information about our free lifetime membership, informing them of that. And what we've done is the important line is if they have already paid their membership dues, because our membership letter and forthcoming dues is due at this time. So if our veterans with hearing loss have paid already, we nicely suggest that possibly they transfer that payment into a donation to our chapter. we've begun to see that, and I am waiting on others and hoping that they'll do the same. I'm presently working on email and other means of communication to 4 other individuals who are not members, but I am aware that they are veterans with hearing loss, and I want to be reaching out to them. I'm very hopeful that we won't have an issue. And we also yesterday received an email from someone who saw actually my newsletter article that was posted on Facebook. And the gentleman sent me an email with some questions, and also the fact that he did make mention there was no place to actually sign up, which tells me he'd like to become a member of our chapter. So after this meeting, I'll definitely be reaching out to him. So it's work in progress, and I'm very excited and want to keep it going. And I just hope that, 1 here, 2 there, that we bring our veterans into our chapter. And we have a membership committee, and through that, we most definitely all have agreed that it's a great focus to have at this time. So we're moving forward. Thank you, Dan.
Carol. Thank you, Carol. Jerry Bergman, go ahead.
Yeah, 1 or 2 things. On the importance of trying to get younger members involved with us, I think one of the problems is that the under 50 generation has a different outlook on socialization than we do. And that's one of the reasons why we've traditionally been a cohort of seniors, and we're getting more senior as the years go by. But I agree that it's important. And I think this might be something that could tie in, Sue Miller, with the Professional Advisory Committee, because nobody has more access to younger people than audiologists and hearing aid dispensers. And I think if the Professional Advisory Committee can try to help us to build relationships, grassroots relationships with the large audiology centers, they could pass out information to their younger members. They could send out emails on our chapter's behalf to get more young people involved. I wanted to mention that. Also, I thank Fred for your comments about accessibility and neck loops and audiologists. I just want to add that we've talked about Zoom quite a bit, and as most of you probably know, Zoom does not provide captions as part of their platform. Dan has to rig it up so we get captions. That's not the case with Google Meet, or I believe with Microsoft's platform, which does have the captions built in free. So we're being discriminated against by the very wealthy folks at Zoom. I just this past week got a hold of the names and addresses of the CEO and Chief Operating Officer of Zoom. And Dan, I will send you a draft of an e-blast that you can send statewide, hopefully, to encourage everyone to write. Snail mail is the best way to do that. Put a stamp on a letter and let them know that we think it's outrageous. We know that Zoom has the technology, because if you purchase a Zoom platform and pay for it, you get the captions. So they should make it available to all of us at no cost, as well as the others do. We've tried to bring a lawsuit against Zoom on this issue. John Waldo led that effort. And sneaky Zoom requires people when they first join Zoom to sign up for membership. And in the fine print, when you sign up, it says you agree to binding arbitration and no lawsuit. So we're stymied in that regard. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Jerry. Didn't realize that. But yes, please get that information out and we will broadcast that to our membership.
And that's another example of the kind of alert that could be included in a newsletter.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. All right, Westchester, Steve Wolford.
Good morning again. We've started our annual membership drive. We currently have about 65 members. We focus on renewals first, and we've been very successful in renewing current members, but we're trying to expand the chapter. I mentioned our youth coordinator. We're also trying to reach out to veterans, audiologists. We've considered purchasing a list of audiologists in Westchester and Rockland and writing to them. We are considering offering a free professional membership to those folks, and we would do so for veterans as well. We're looking to diversify our base. Let me bring this up. There's a perception, at least in Rochester, that AG Bell is the organization that is really here for younger people and parents of younger people. AG Bell is a wonderful organization, but I would certainly argue that that is the case. In terms of Zoom meetings, all of our meetings have gone virtual. We have been meeting in a library. We've done 3 meetings so far. We've also started happy hours where people can just interact and socialize. We did a Halloween, Debbie, come back, Debbie. We had a Halloween costume party, and Debbie and her husband, Robert, one is Fred and Wilma Flintstone, will be doing a similar Christmas event. We have a new website coming on board shortly. We use proceeds. One of our board members makes up clear face masks and has donated all the proceeds. So we put $500 of the money we raised towards a new website, which will be coming on shortly. It's linked to the New York State and national websites as well. We have a newsletter. We've had a couple informal outside picnics during the summer. We realize we're not ready to do in-person meetings as yet. And that's what we're doing in Westchester. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody have any questions or comments on the Westchester chapter? Sue, go ahead.
It's not so much our chapters, but realizing that we have a national board member, and I'm seeing that it's 11:35, so we do have a few more minutes. And I'm just wondering if Pete Backler would ever want to give us an update, because he just attended a board meeting on what's going on at national. And what can we as state members, what can we do to support what national is working on right now?
I guess that means I'm on. Thank you, Sue.
Yay!
Dan asked me a few minutes ago if I would make a report, so I've been kind of scrambling here to put together some notes. This will be not as organized as it might be, but just a few things. COVID has kind of defined our lives, and that's very clear from the chapter reports. That is clearly true with national, and most of this is old news, but just to briefly review, the bug hit when early March was when we became realizing this was something we'd have to deal with. So the staff has been scrambling, to say the least. The spring walks were converted to virtual, and there wasn't much time to do that, but it was a nice effort and it worked pretty well. We were more polished in the way the fall virtual walks took place. We called the convention off because it was obvious we weren't going to be able to do the convention, and instead National put together a 2-day experience, I think it was called, that was not a bad effort. Again, the world was changing around us, and maybe it still is. And so there were challenges. Um, Prior to the bug, we had decided that we would be moving the physical location of National. I believe we'd been located in Bethesda since the beginning, since Rocky Stone's founding of the organization in 1979. But the landlord, in a decision I imagine that landlord is now really regretting, would not be reasonable in terms of the rent that they wanted to charge when we renewed what I think was a 10-year lease. So we moved. We have relocated to Rockville. That new address, if you need it, is at the website hearingloss.org. So while the bug's going on, staff had to pack up and move as well. So staff is working virtually. Some people go into the office, and I don't quite know the protocol, but it's like out of 12 staff, I think only 2 or 3 are in the office at the same time. So this is different, and it's different to have a job where it's totally distance oriented. Talking about the convention, the next convention is scheduled for San Diego in June. If I were you, I would not be booking flights for that because it's our suspicion that we will not be holding the convention in San Diego. If you think about it, there's a lot of advanced planning, lining up sponsors, lining up speakers and panels and all of that. And right now, how are you going to talk to people about let's get together in San Diego and do a traditional convention? That said, we have not officially canceled yet, but I can't imagine that we're going to have the convention. Right now, what is happening is we are negotiating with the venue. Henry Fader of Philadelphia, who is our long time attorney who does everything pro bono, has arranged for a California attorney to work with the venue in San Diego. We understand that the contract is reasonably favorable to us because it mentions epidemics and other acts of God kinds of things. So we expect that we're going to get out of that, but this is kind of a moving target now. And I just lay that out for you for what we know. I mentioned a staff of 12, but I just want to say something here about a good friend of ours, all of ours, Hollis Goodman, formerly of Westchester County and I believe Westchester County, and a longtime member of the board of this association, now lives in the Washington area. And Hollis is a volunteer staff person who, near as I can tell, works as a full-time kind of thing on a volunteer no pay basis for Hearing Loss Association. I just wanted to say something because I don't think many people know this. And those of you who are staying in touch, why don't you give her a big thanks, because this has been going on for several years, and it's a labor of love for Hollis, but we're just so much in her debt. Those of you who have followed Hearing Loss Association know that finances are always a question. Back in the day, if you go back, finances have always been kind of nickels and dimes rubbed together, and very close budgeting required. In a sense, that's still true, but we now have a balance sheet that provides us with a cash buffer in times that are tough when things aren't working out. So we're fortunate in that regard. We're also fortunate that the latest fiscal year, which ended in August 31, we broke even with a slight surplus. And to think that the walks got destroyed financially, I mean, we came in the spring at about 30%, I think, revenue of what we would normally have. And the convention's called off, but staff scrambled and they managed the expense budgets in a way that we were able to come in with a surplus budget. That's just a heck of an accomplishment in this milieu. And you read the newspapers and you read about businesses going under and whatever. Well, we have to have cash too to run national. So they've done a great job. Now, looking forward, this next year will be full of challenges too. But I want to say, and I'm talking finances, and finances are negative, by definition. But I want to say there's a lot of optimism at the Hearing Loss Board and with management and staff. We've undergone, you've probably gotten the first postcard out there. There's emails about our campaign, our leadership campaign that's to raise money that's running between now and the end of the year. We had a board member, Sherry Perizzoli, who stepped up with a $100,000 commitment. When she made in April, she made this known she was doing this, and she talked about her work with other organizations and how she and her friends were seeing a need and were stepping up and stretching what they could do. Well, that's what she did with Hearing Loss Association. So we've built the fundraising campaign around this leadership gift. And we're doing something different this year. The fundraising for Hearing Loss Association has typically been letters sent out by the executive director, one in the spring, one in the fall. And the board really hasn't been involved. Well, this year we said, hey, the board needs to be involved. And furthermore, we need to get the advice and counsel of what I call the grassroots. And who are we talking about? People like you, chapters, other supporters. So we reached out to former board members and some supporters and of our group here, sitting here today. Sue Taylor is part of this leadership committee that we put together. Ann Pope, who was with us and left a few minutes ago, Tony Iacolucci, and Holly Cohen. So we have, and myself. So we have 5 New Yorkers who are in this leadership committee, and it's really a committee that has done 2 things. The national board and management has wanted to hear from people away from the board, tell us what we should be doing, and help us put together the materials that articulate what we're doing in terms of trying to raise money. Why are we asking for money? So the help of this group, which is a group of, I would say, 25 or 30 people, has really been valuable. And my personal hope is that this is going to mark a change in that Hearing Loss Association, the national organization, is much more active in reaching out, not just for your money, but for your advice and counsel, and to stay in touch about what we're doing. So that's part of the change that we see coming at Hearing Loss Association of America. So what else do I have? I am struck. This has been a great meeting, by the way. We need to do more of this, and the challenges that we faced, attracting members, attracting young people. National has the same problem. And it used to drive me crazy when I was the treasurer and the president back in the day of the board. I would keep track. How many people in the country can't hear? Well, I think the number now is 48 million, whatever it is. And then I would look at the number of members we had. And of course, it didn't even round to 0.1% of that population. Well, now we count a little differently, and we say that members and supporters are number close to 60,000. But still, do the math. 60,000 people nationally versus a population that we're working for of 48 million. So the challenges we face locally in terms of how to expand our network, the national organization has the exact same challenges. And I think when you read some of what we say about why we're asking for your money this fall, there is recognition that we need to reach out to try to help chapters and others expand their networks. And I am hopeful too that we can start to look at Hearing Loss Association as a giant network across the country. We know, look at the sharing that you're talking about doing right now. We have the 2 meetings in New York that people from across the state can go to by simply getting the link. This is terrific. It really enriches what we're able to do in our reach. We know that in the West, there are groups that are meeting across state lines. Again, the technology makes this possible. So I'm going to stop here pretty soon, or we'll be ready. We'll go past lunch into the dinner hour. We think, and this isn't particularly unusual thinking now, but the bugs changed our lives, and maybe, just maybe, what has happened in the way the world's changing, we're learning to use the technologies. Would it be possible that we can really start to use these technologies along with better use of social media to really reach out and get our network across the country together and also expanding? So we're seeing an awful lot of opportunity amidst the challenges. There'll be a lot of challenges this coming year. The finances will be tough. But when we put together this fundraising campaign, we said, this isn't about survival. We don't use the word survival. We're talking about sustaining and growing what we try to do. And I am hopeful that the focus too is inclusion with all of the local chapters and other supporters, so that we can really network and scale what we're trying to do. So I'll be glad to take questions if you have any.
My only comment was, I think you said Sue Taylor, and I don't know who Sue Taylor is, but I'm very passionate about what you're working on, and I am one of the supporters of that.
I'm sorry, Sue. How could I get that wrong? Sue Miller.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pete. They're kind of a off the cuff. And during the meeting, I realized that wouldn't it be nice to have a report from National, and I appreciate you doing that. So
I'm glad to report, and I have really appreciated. I don't know a lot of you here, and I know, of course, the Rochester people and a few other New Yorkers who we've crossed paths earlier. But this is really a quality group, and all the good work that's happening. It's really cool, isn't it? It's really great. So
it sure is. It sure is. Anybody have any? This is where were we? We got about 10 minutes. We couldn't go over and a little over. But Eric, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one idea for Pete. I monitor a lot of the special interest groups for the hearing aids on social networks. And one of the main issues that people have is the cost of hearing aids. And there's all kinds of questions as to why more states can't do what the state of Maine has done. The state of Maine has apparently leveraged their licensing requirements to compel insurers who want to do business in Maine to offer coverage, or at least partial coverage, for hearing aids. I think the number is something like $3,000 per year, or per every 3 years per year. That's significant, and if National wanted to at least disseminate how Maine did that, I'm sure it would attract a lot of attention.
You'd be interested to know, Eric, that we are working with the Congressional Caucus, and in fact, we have a visit with them coming up. Barbara Kelly, who is the executive director of Hearing Loss Association, and Frank Lynn, who is a doctor on the faculty at Johns Hopkins, who has done research, groundbreaking research into the connection between dementia or cognitive decline and hearing loss. The two of them are going to the Congressional Caucus sometime between now and the end of the year during the lame duck to pitch the case for including hearing aids as a covered benefit in Medicare. The national program, Medicare, it's our belief, if Medicare would start to cover the cost of hearing aids or partial cost of hearing aids, that would open up the pressure for the commercial insurers that are in commercial insurance that's paid through, for example, employment-based situations. So we're hopeful. I'm not promising anything. This whole thing has been the Medicare coverage of hearing aids. Those of you who have been following this has been an effort, a long slog for years, but we think we've found an opportunity where in this lame duck session where we could get in the door. And Franklin, we've heard him at conventions. He is one bright guy, and he really has the goods on this in terms of connecting aging and cognitive decline with hearing loss. So.
Yeah. I think that's a tremendous effort. I guess the only idea I wanted to throw out there is that if more states would do whatever that is the state of Maine did, we'd make some real inroads. It's like ADA. Department of Justice, is great, but they're busy. So enforcement of ADA is a little lax. It's up to states, licensing bureaus, attorneys general, and the list. But we need to get the information out on how successful states have done it.
Yeah.
Ask a question?
Yep. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, my observation is that, untreated hearing loss leads to many things that are bad. And I'm just stymied by the fact that general family practice doctors, from between the ages of 18 and 65, there's no screening. So this continues to remain an invisible disability or challenge that affects so many other parts of your life. So is HLAA, my question, I guess, is what can HLAA do on a national level to work with, the American, the Association of Family Practitioners or whatever those groups are, to somehow convince them to do something on a regular basis for just routine screening? They do it for kids up to 18. They do it, after 65.
Joe Miller mentioned Elaine McCaffrey coming to Rochester in May, or visiting virtually, to talk about healthcare access. There is, under the sponsorship of Hearing Loss Association of America National, there is a group which is very, very much New York based, it turns out. Tony Iacolucci's involved, Peggy Ellertson from Boston, but there's a small group of volunteers. Elaine McCaffrey was kind of the convener of this because they've had success in Chicago in working with hospitals, in this case, in improving access for people with hearing loss. The focus of the task force, I'm trying to remember my notes from the presentation I made last week in Rochester. There's a focus. There are three ways to try to improve the access to healthcare for people with hearing loss. One, as you know, is training the people with hearing loss about how to advocate, how to be prepared, how to help their providers help them. That's number one. That's kind of a micro approach. A second micro approach is what Elaine McCaffrey and her Chicago group have done and what's happening in other communities. It was mentioned New York City's got a group working on this, I think John mentioned. And that is working with healthcare providers one by one, really, to try to get them to see what best practices would be and to get them to change their way they do business. That's a tough slog too, because you make progress in New York or Chicago, but that doesn't change what's happening in Sarasota, for example. So the third piece of this is, and here's where my knowledge falls apart because I don't have my notes in front of me. The third part is to try to work with associations of healthcare providers, professionals, and create best practice standards, which would become the industry gold standard for how you provide access to people with hearing loss. So this task force that I talked about under Elaine McCaffrey's leadership with Tony Iacolucci and others working on it, that's what they're doing. It's a three-pronged thing. And I imagine you agree. I don't know. I see access to healthcare as being one of the top 2 or 3 issues that if you think about it, for people with hearing loss, access to hearing aids and that sort of thing is right up there too. So this is something we're working on. It's pretty much volunteer based at this point. But I don't think this isn't going away in my mind. And the work needs to be, we just need to stay after it. Remember, this organization, the mothership in Rockville now, is small. I mean, we have 12 staff. It's a $2 million budget. This is not, we don't have scale. We can't drive the conversation across the country because we don't have that kind of scale and reach. We wish we did, but that doesn't mean, I think we punch above our weight, to use a phrase from boxing, but we don't set the agenda. We have to look for our opportunities and see if we can't make progress.
Mary Kate has her hand up.
I just wanted to say that I've had a number of medical issues in the past couple of weeks, and every single time I go to a doctor's office in New York, they say to me, do I have a living will? And there's something else, they ask you a series of questions. If we could get to the people who design those questionnaires and say, do you have a hearing loss, or should you be tested for hearing loss? That would at least stimulate some conversations. And I don't know how we could get to the people that design that, but it's a thought.
I'm trying to figure out, when they ask me, do you think about, you're afraid of falling? Someday I'm going to say, I think about it all the time because you ask me every time I come into the office. I'm so irritated with it. Anyway, I agree with what you say.
Yes. Is there anybody else that has a comment or a question? Okay. Well, it's 11:58, and I think we can bring it to a close. First of all, I just want to thank you all for coming. Everybody has a little bit and piece to the whole puzzle, and together we make it, make it happen, make it work. So no matter how little you are or big, all of us together can really make it a movement. So I can't thank you enough for coming. We had quite a crowd, and we got through the agenda. I was really impressed. So I can't thank you enough. I hope you all enjoyed the meeting, and do remember, it will be posted, and it'll probably be a few days, but it'll be on the website, so you can watch this again, and hopefully the part that was missed on the captions will reappear. And can't thank you enough for all coming. So thank you all, and enjoy the beautiful day.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.